Alright, how's it going everybody? So today my video topic is going to be on how to take a bunch of drugs and get huge. I hope I've established by now that that's not what this channel is about. Anyway, I wanted to get into the topic of today's video. That is going to be weighted apparel. So just quick little rundown. Basically, I saw a video with James Krieger and Steve Hall on Revive Stronger podcast. I'll link that down below. It's an amazing podcast. I've gotten tons of practical information that I've been able to apply to myself and my bodybuilding and my clients as well from that channel specifically. Anyway, I saw a video with James Krieger and Steve Hall, and one of the questions was weighted apparel and if it had any place in a contest prep. And basically James said that yes, it does. It may not be practical, but it may increase your NEAT and may allow you to not experience some of the metabolic adaptation that occurs in a calorically restricted state, such as a contest prep. Fast forward a couple weeks, my coach, Stan Efferding, I work with Stan Efferding and Flex Wheeler for this prep, and I still currently work with them. He sent me an article, partially written by James Krieger, and it was a case study on I don't know if it was a client of James or just an associate, who used weighted apparel in a contest prep. And he said, I believe this may be game changing. Now, I want to start by saying that, one, I believe that spreading this information is advantageous, hopefully, and it can maybe encourage in the future an actual controlled study on this subject specifically. I would also never like to take away from Stan and steal or put out any of his secrets. I think this is kind of in the public sphere. I just don't think people have caught on to it. If either James or Stan were uncomfortable with me sharing this information, I would be willing to take this video down. But I really think that it could be really helpful for a lot of people, especially people who are suffering from doing hours and hours of cardio in a contest prep state. So anyway, basically he said, hey, check this article out. I really think this is going to be a game changer for contest prep. And it's wild because I had the intentions of asking him about it, but I wasn't sure. This is new territory, especially for bodybuilding. And so I was just like, you know what, I'll just do whatever they say. Stan or Norflex are notorious for adding in tons of cardio. They find other ways. I know from people they've worked with in the past that I personally know, they find other ways to increase energy expenditure, such as hit under load, such as like doing farmer's carries and things like that, not actually doing treadmill work. So they're already in that sphere, and this was something that Stan saw as advantageous. So anyway, he said, so we started at 261 at about 14 weeks out. 261 pounds was my weight. He said I had already been in a deficit for probably about 4 weeks then, and he said add 12 pounds to the vest. So that puts me at an artificial weight of 273 pounds. I maintained this until about 4 weeks out. So I was 273 pounds artificially. That means that he said add a pound every pound you lose. Now, I just want to say that this is limited. Basically, obviously, this video is anecdote. This is my personal experiences with it. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus and situations regarding that, there are some shortcomings of this whole process. One being that I had to stop my contest prep at about 4 weeks because there were no shows in sight, and I'm not really unsure about the competition season for the rest of the season. I'm still wearing the weighted apparel actually right now in my rebound phase, and we're just kind of taking that day to day. So I just want to say that is a limitation of myself in this situation. I will be documenting other contest preps probably somewhere in the future, 6 months to a year, and I will be following through with this method as well, so I will document that. But I wanted to share this information as it's available. So anyway, we did that until about 4 weeks out. I think the whole prep, we only had 2 caloric reductions or adjustments. So my diet only changed twice over the span of, that would be about 14 weeks or so. So at 18 weeks, I think we dropped the calories, lowered the fat a little bit, lowered the carbohydrates. And I'm going to put photos up for all of these phases. Week 14, when we added the weighted apparel initially, I was at 4180 calories. The next adjustment was at about 258 pounds. At 11 weeks out, and at 11 weeks out we dropped to 3,000 calories, and that is the lowest my calories ever got the whole prep. And so we did not adjust from 11 weeks all the way to 4 weeks, and I did not see any reason to adjust really at that point, we probably could have, maybe when we got closer, pulled a little bit more, pushed a little harder. Given the circumstance, I would put both the photos up. I think it was right to pull into a larger deficit because I was behind. Unfortunately, that's a circumstance. I think I still maintained about a 1% weight loss every week. And at my weight, that's somewhere, it can be, I think, 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds, just because of how heavy I was. Over the whole course of the whole prep, I lost, from about 20 weeks out, I lost over 50 pounds. That's just kind of how my body functions. Anyway, enough about that. So wearing the weighted apparel allowed us to only have to make 2 calorie adjustments and really 1 for the majority of the actual harder part of the deficit. Some things that were mentioned in the article that I wanted to address are maintenance of leg muscle mass. I'll put up a picture of my legs. I don't believe they lost very much size. The only situation that I feel like they may have lost any bit of size is just the fact that I had to train in a garage, which is another limitation because of the coronavirus during my prep. That's why I want to duplicate this in the future in a normal environment under normal circumstances. But my legs, for the most part, I'll put them up on the screen, I don't think lost very much size or fullness. That I have experienced in the past when I've had to do 2 hours on the stairs. My legs get stringy, my body gets stringy. I maintained a high level of fullness throughout the whole prep. The second thing would be hunger. They mentioned that keeping your weight artificially high would increase your NEAT, potentially decrease your hunger. It's not allowing as much metabolic adaptation that would normally occur if you were losing weight continuously. When you're in a caloric deficit, your daily energy expenditure goes down because your weight goes down. There is an equation by the ACSM walking equation, and that basically shows the difference in energy expenditure at different body weights, and how at a higher body weight you expend more energy from just simply activities like walking. So by replacing the weight that I lost, my body is not decreasing its NEAT. I'm not experiencing certain symptoms of metabolic adaptation, and with that, hormones such as leptin are not being suppressed. I'm not becoming more hungry throughout the process, and I would say that I experienced this as well. This was by far the easiest contest prep that I've ever done, by far the easiest diet. All I did was maintain a step count of around 9,000 every day, and I did this through tracking steps on my phone, and I just made sure I walked after meals. I do follow the vertical diet, so I was already doing 3 10-minute walks. This is about maybe 4 10-minute walks and some activity like going to the grocery store in between. I had to make sure that I did that. And then I just wore the weight for a majority of my day. So one thing I wanted to address is the practicality of this whole situation. So is wearing weighted apparel practical? Now, this is a tricky question. If you're talking in terms of bodybuilding is not practical. Doing a contest is not practical. And in the case that I wasn't wearing weighted apparel and I wasn't working with these specific coaches, I may end up doing 2 hours of cardio. I mean, is that really practical? Not really. So I want to actually show you some of the pieces of weight that I used in a minute. But basically, I just want to say that practicality is definitely relative. I think I was able to wear a lot of the weight under my clothes. I work as a server and a bartender. I was able to wear a lot of the weight under my clothes. My over-the-shoulder weight I was wearing under a baggy shirt, a work shirt, and then I wore my ankle weights underneath my jeans. And nobody even noticed unless I said something. So I found it very practical, and I didn't even really notice that I was wearing weight most of the time. Now, if you're in a situation where you have a job that wouldn't allow that or has a very strict dress code, then maybe it is impractical. And there are maybe some workarounds there too, like such as wearing it if you have times of the day where you can wear it, maybe just taking advantage of that as opposed to not wearing it at all. So anyway, I wanted to show you actually the specific pieces I bought. I bought 4 different pieces of weighted apparel. So here's the first one. This is the one I wore most of the time. And at work, this is a 12-pound fixed weight. And I actually had to modify the straps because it was too small for me. So I extended the straps about a foot so they could fit around my lats. But yeah, that's the first one. It just goes over your shoulders. Pretty easy to wear. Don't really notice a whole lot. Second one, this is one I started with. I found that this was really impractical because it was just it was just harder to breathe. And I didn't like a lot of the weight concentrated on my chest. If you read through the article, he mentions that his hypothesis is that distributing the weight throughout your body will mimic more natural weight, and it'll cause muscle retention. I mean, obviously that wasn't proven, but it does make a lot of sense. It would cause more muscle retention in the areas where the weight is being bared, such as you were probably bearing some of the weight that you lost in your legs, and such as you also maybe were bearing some of it in your upper body as well. So distributing it makes more sense. This was just an over the shoulder, but this is adjustable. So this one here got on Amazon, and there are 4-pound sandbags in it. This one was also really cool because you can put your shaker right here. You can put your shaker and your keys on it too. So I found once it got to about 20 pounds, it was just really difficult to wear though. So I didn't use that very much. Here we have ankle weights that go up to 10 pounds. I think total. So this would be, yes. They're half pound each. Yeah, so the weights, ankle weights go up to 10 pounds total. All right, and then once I ran out of weight, I could have done one of two things. One was buy the 20-pound fixed weight vest, but I wanted to distribute the weight even more, so I got this weighted belt that goes around my waist. I'll put a picture of me wearing all the stuff up on the screen as well. And then the weighted belt, it was 2-pound sandbags. For the ankle weights, it was these half-pound little weights. And other workarounds too is you could put them in your pockets while you're at work, or shove them in your socks. There's probably a lot of other workarounds, but as far as practicality, I found it to be not super impractical, and especially when comparing it to 2 hours of cardio, it was very sustainable. Now the advantages of this also too is, one, not having to make multiple adjustments, and I would hypothesize if I started at a lower body fat and we didn't pull those 1,000 calories, we just maintained a normal deficit throughout the whole thing, probably wouldn't have had to make any adjustments until we got to maybe 2 weeks out or so. So I would like to experiment with that in the future and probably maintain even higher calories because of my body weight, my muscle mass, that my energy expenditure is so much higher, so I can diet on higher amounts of food. And so I think we could use that to the advantage in the future, and that's definitely something that I would like to speak with my coaches about. And the other advantage is not having to add a ton of volume. Normally, coaches will add volume from adding volume to the actual workouts and adding volume via cardio. And the problem with that is, in a caloric deficit, in a calorie restricted state, you can get overtrained very easily. And if you start adding in tons of volume from cardio, especially on your legs, you have a high chance of losing muscle mass in your legs. You have a high chance of getting overtrained and digressing. So definitely a huge advantage. There's also the hormonal advantage, the fact that metabolic adaptation hasn't occurred to a greater degree. Like I said, very easy. I basically just kept doing my daily routine and didn't really experience too many side effects of metabolic adaptation. My hunger wasn't insane. I've had my hunger to where it's almost unbearable, and this is nowhere on that level. I would probably rate my hunger like a 4 out of 10 most of the time. So very, very sustainable. And I also did the equation. I didn't do it completely correct, but the ACSM walking measurement equation, I did the math. Basically, if I would have started at my 20-week out weight, which was like around 285, if I would have not adjusted or added any weight at all, there would be a discrepancy alone of just neat calories. There would be a discrepancy of around 220 calories. So that means that my energy expenditure would have decreased at least 220 calories. That's not including metabolic adaptation, and that's not including the total TDEE, which is total daily energy expenditure, which you have thermic effective food and other things that influence that. They found in the study that they did, the case study, that those without the weighted apparel could result in daily energy or total daily energy expenditure differences of up to another 200 calories or so. So to put that into perspective, just from NEAT alone, This is 55 more carbohydrates that I was able to eat throughout a diet. That's an ugly S. So I was able to eat 55 more carbohydrates on average. That's not including my total daily energy expenditure. So when you're talking just alone, the difference between 100 carbohydrates and 150 carbohydrates in a state where you are very depleted and low energy, or you tend to be, 50 carbs when you are that low of carbohydrates is a huge difference, speaking from my personal experience. Having to have that extra 55 carbs in a day makes a difference in your energy and makes a difference in your satiety as well. So that alone is just a huge, huge, huge reason for why I believe this is an extremely effective method and that more of us should be using it. That, coupled with the muscle retention and the low metabolic adaptation, I believe are great reasons for more people to be practicing this, and hopefully some more research to be done on this topic in the future. Not really much else I want to add there. I really just would like to actually hear some questions if anybody's curious about certain aspects of this whole thing. Like I said, it still needs to be studied further, but as far as I see, this is an extremely promising tool for people to use in a contest prep scenario. I would say it's pretty practical for most people. If we allow it, it will change the whole dynamic of contest prep. I myself don't want to do 2 hours of cardio. I like lifting weights. I don't like doing cardio, and that's why I decided to start bodybuilding in the first place. Anyway, just leave any of your questions down in the comments below. I'd love to answer them based on my practical experience with this particular modality. And feel free to email me questions as well, DM, all that good stuff. And I'm handling t-shirt orders through my email as well if you're interested in that. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful, and I hope that some of you can utilize this technique in the future. Thanks again for watching my videos. It's nice talking to you.